Let's talk about pronoun questions on the SAT. In case you're not familiar, what a pronoun actually is basically a shorter, smaller way to write a noun. So let's say we have John. John is a perfectly fine way to say John. I'm John. If you're talking about John in a sentence, we could use the word John. But let's say we don't want to keep having to say John again and again, because if I do that, pretty much my sentences are all going to look like John went to the store, John did this, John did Y, John did X. We don't want to keep saying John because it just eventually starts feeling a little bit repetitive. So instead, we can start using pronouns as like a replacement for the nouns midway through what we're talking about. So for John, instead of just saying John every single time, I could start saying he. Makes a lot of sense. You're probably familiar with pronouns. If you have spoken English at all, I'm sure you're very, very familiar. That's how they work. Another way to think about this is kind of like when you're signing up for something for the first time. When you first make a password for any kind of website, oftentimes they have this thing, remember me. It's really cumbersome if you have to write the whole password every single time you're trying to sign in. And many of us also just forget what our passwords even are in the first place. But it's easier if you click this remember me button, because now it just takes away all that effort and can automatically go in to whatever software you're using. That's kind of like what a pronoun is. And the thing with pronouns is you may just use pronouns like regularly, like whatever just feels right. You might say they, he, him, it. But on the SAT, there are actual specific rules for which pronouns to use at which points. And specifically, you have to consider the number, the gender, and the case of the pronoun being used. Okay, let me talk about each one of those real quick. Number refers to the amount of people. If I was to say John, that is only one person, so we have to use a singular pronoun like he, or if John was an object, we could say it, or if John was a girl, we could say she. If instead there were multiple people, like if we said something like friends, that is multiple different things, so we have to use a plural pronoun like they. So just keep that in mind, they versus he, she, it. Second thing is gender. On the SAT, they are strict with making sure that you follow the gender of the pronoun. So if you have John, something that is masculine, you would say something like he or him. If you have like Julia, which would be feminine, you would say something like she or her. The thing you should know is if you have something like an animal, like if you had a dog, you just call that it. I know you may want to like call it by, whether it's he or she or even call it they or something like that. But if it is an animal, the SAT just wants you to refer to it as basically an object. I know it's a little bit bad, but that's how the SAT works. Last thing here is the case. This one may not make as much sense as the others, but basically the way this works is you think to yourself, is the pronoun doing the action or is the pronoun receiving the action? Or theoretically, it could also be possessive. I'm going to show an example of this in a second, so let's just wait until that. Here are a couple examples. Antecedents are the nouns that the pronouns are in place of. So student, the student, you can say that. Then a pronoun could be he or she. And then the example would be the student forgot her book. The students, a pronoun for that would be they. And then the students forgot their books. So that kind of stuff here. As for that case thing I just mentioned, there are basically three different cases you can use for the SAT. If it is the subject, meaning the pronoun does the action, use something like I, he, she, we, they, who. So you could say she runs fast because she is the thing that's doing the running. If I said John goes to the store, we would say he goes to the store. If I had multiple friends and they all threw a big party, we could say they threw a big party. But if it's an objective pronoun, that means it is receiving the action. So this would be like if you had a sentence that said the teacher praised him. Him is what is receiving the praise. So therefore it would be in the objective case, him. So him, me, her, us, them, whom. So the teacher praised me, the teacher praised her, the teacher praised them. That's how this stuff would work. Then finally, possessive. I have a whole other video about specifically possession, but this can also work for pronouns. So if something owns something else, like if I own an object, if I own a mouse, if I own a keyboard, if I own a computer, that would require a possessive pronoun. So my, mine, your, yours, his, her, hers, our, ours, their, theirs. My book is very good. So just my book. I know this stuff is like super just like tedious, nitpicky, but it is important. If you see a question like this on the SAT, you are going to have to decipher between these, and you could get a question wrong very easily if you don't. Now, some other just like kind of cringe, weird examples that you should know as well. If you have something combined with and, you automatically use the plural pronoun. So this would be a plural thing. Jack and Jill went up to the hill, they fell down. But if it is using or instead, then you can just use the singular pronouns and just combine or with them. So Jack or Jill would present his or her idea. So each of these would be singular, and we just use each one for Jack and Jill respectively. Now, another big thing that you have to keep out for is the nouns that they're using. This here says the team won its game. Its would be a singular pronoun. Meaning because there's only one team. Even though the team is made up of multiple different people, there's only one entity of the team. That's only one thing. Meanwhile, if we said here the team members celebrated their win, now that goes to being multiple because we have members here. You have to always think, what is the main thing actually doing the action? In this example, the team is the thing doing the winning. In this example, it is the members who are celebrating, and that is the action that they're doing here. So just good example, keep in mind. Now, I do just have to quickly mention, this is the last rule I'm going to do before I get into practice problems. You have to know the difference between stuff like it's and there and there. I covered this again in the possession video, but I'm just going to do it again because it's so important. It's, what this means is literally it is. So basically it would be the pronoun it and then saying is. So I could say it is good, it is fun, it is happy. It's, on the other hand, without the apostrophe, would be showing possession. Watch my possession video if you want to see more on this, but basically it's showing that something owns something else. So if I said it's book, it's item, it's rock, that is possession. That is something that is owning those things. There, if that has an apostrophe, that means they are. They are happy, they are sad, pronoun, and then verb. This would also be possession, their, so their books, their objects. Your, same kind of thing, you are, and then your, which would just be possession. So keep that in mind. You are going to see some examples like this on the SAT many, many times, so you should understand this very, very well. Okay, let's do some practice problems now. Otherwise, the instrument can lose calibration, making its readings inconsistent. So the antecedent here is instrument. That would be a singular thing. It's just an object as well, so it doesn't have any gender. And so calibration, that's saying the instrument basically owns the calibration. It's the calibration of the instrument. So we have to use a possession thing, so it could work like it's. Singular and possessive. This setup allows each of the satellites to change orientation without firing thrusters, which would consume limited propellant. This is kind of a weird example, but we have each here. Each would be referring to a singular thing because it's saying each of the satellites. So basically every single individual one of the satellites. So that must be singular. Again, it is also possessive because it says orientation, basically the orientation of the satellite. So we have to use a possessive thing and singular, which would again be its. During deep sleep, the hippocampus reactivates patterns of neural firing from the day by coordinating with a cortex. Blank gradually stabilizes the patterns. Okay, the antecedent here is hippocampus. That would be a singular thing. It is not feminine or masculine, and it is just the subjective thing, so this time it would be it for the answer. All of these would involve something that's plural rather than singular. The city council invited the public to comment on a plan to renovate the park. This one might be a little bit weird, but think to yourself, what is making the plan? Who is making the plan? It would be the council that is creating this plan. It would not be the people who are doing it. It's not the public who's doing it. So therefore, we have to use a singular pronoun yet again. And since the plan is basically owned by the council, we would use something like it's here. And just one more quick example. We have here one frustrated teacher wrote an email to the principal saying she considered distracting and completely unnecessary additions. So they're talking here about Subway Surfer clips, so that would be a plural thing this time. And also it's saying she considered blank distracting. So this time it would be the objective case. It would be the thing that is receiving the action from the principal. So therefore we have to go for something here that's both plural and objective. So that would be something like them. I'll be honest with you, I've worked with many SAT students. I don't think I've ever talked to a single one who actually was like seriously struggling with pronouns. So this is the kind of thing I think you generally can just master in the span of a day if you're watching this video and be really good at it after that, and then you'll just be solid. So just do a few problems on this, and I'm sure you can get really good. If you want some practice problems, check Mission 400 Plus with the link in the description. We have a 7-day free trial right now, and you can access a bunch of pronoun practice problems plus practice problems on all the other sections of the SAT as well, with full courses on each section as well. I'll see you guys in there. Good luck on the SAT, and make sure to always stay Gucci.